Oh. गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. We are in Panchadashi, chapter 3, Panchakosha Vivek, verse number 22, na? And we saw last week that here it was told do we have a doubt with regards to do I have a tongue or not? No. Do you see the tongue? In mirror you can see, but can you see the tongue? Still I can't see. I don't know. Some people may have a long tongue. He's trying. Can you see? Do you have any doubt with regards to your ears or eyes? Can you see your ears? No. Can you see your eyes? No. So even though you are not seeing it, but you know that it exists. Have you ever seen your mind objectively? No. But you know it exists. It's not an object of cognition for your five senses. Why is it so difficult to accept that the self, the conscious principle that I am, is also there when it is, and you are experiencing it? And this is what was told, that this truth, this pure consciousness, this witnessing consciousness, this reality can never be known objectively. Because we are doing Panchakosha Vivek, so once we have drop means we have worked out that the body, the vital air, the mind, the intellect, the bliss sheath, all these are existing in their own absence. I am the core, the essence, I am that in whose light these five express or unexpress themselves. And once I have shifted my attention from these five, then what is left behind is this Atma Tattva. And now that is what we are talking about. Panchakosha Parityage Panchakosha Parityage Sakshi Bodhavasheshatah Sakshi Bodhavasheshatah Swaswarupam Sa Eva Syat Swaswarupam Sa Eva Syat Shunyatvam Tasya Durghatam Shunyatvam Tasya Durghatam. Having rejected the five sheaths, the witnessing consciousness that remains is our own real nature. This is Brahman. It is impossible to deny its existence as nothing. So here the teacher is taking a position that the reality is Sadvastu. It is not an Anitya Vastu. It's a Nitya Vastu. It is. Because everyone is. You don't say I am not. You don't say I am not. You say I am. Nobody we have ever come across who says I am not. So it is not Anitya Vastu. It is not something which is non-existing. It is existing. because this Atma Tattva is our own essence, it is our core, it is my being, it is my life, it is me. And when everything has been denied, everything has been rejected, everything has been dropped, the world, the body, the breath, the mind, the intellect, then what is left behind? You can't create it, but once you have gone through this process, what is left behind is not nothing. What is left behind is the witnessing consciousness. And this witnessing consciousness is essentially the self. And this self is nothing but the Brahman. And this is how the whole process is going to be unfolded now. This is what we call as our own essential nature. Tasya shunvatam durghatam. Therefore, to say that after negating the five koshas, nothing is left, that nothingness is an impossibility. Because who is saying that nothing is left? That fellow must be there. Nothing cannot say, I am nothing. Some intelligent fellow, some intelligent presence will have to say that there is nothing. The argument that because Sakshi is not known, that is, witness is not, the reason why some people say that there is nothing is because the scriptures say again and again that this witnessing consciousness, this presence, cannot be known through the medium of thoughts. And that is why 2 verses before the example was taken, your eyes cannot objectively see themselves, but do you accept that there are eyes? Yes. Why? Because they are able to illuminate everything else. Similarly, everything else is illuminated by whom? That means body, breath, mind, intellect is illuminated by whom? And their absence also is illuminated by whom? You don't need to know. You don't need to see the eyes physically in order to ascertain their presence. See? Similarly, we don't need to ascertain the witnessing consciousness objectively in order to prove its existence. It is because that pure consciousness or the witnessing consciousness is my nature. I am only saying that I am witnessing nothing or something. And in this way, one must not come to the conclusion that there is something called nothing after the negation of the 5 sheaths. One must come to a positive conclusion, not a negative conclusion. Nothingness is a negative conclusion. Atma Tattva is a positive conclusion. Such people who come to this conclusion of nothing can feel, there is nothing, that means I am nothing. I just came, I am just a matter of chance who has come into this creation, and at the whim of the creation I will just vanish one day. See? Then there is no purpose, then there is no dharma, there is no righteousness. If there is, everything is nothing and a product of nothing, expression of nothing, then I will live my life any way I want. Then there will be no rules, there will be no regulations, there will be no order, there will be no seeking, there will be no scriptures. Then there will be no morals, there will be no principles, there will be no character building. Then what's the point of success and failure? Nothing is required. Why? It's all out of nothing only. Nothing means nothing is there. Because there is something called the self, the witnessing consciousness, therefore we strive. See? We have to understand nothing is, if at all we want to use the word nothing, it is only from the point of view that it is not the Atma Tattva, the witnessing consciousness cannot be known. Because something cannot be known is not equal to nothingness. This we have to understand. That will be unfolded. It will be mentioned again. How this Sakshi cannot be an absence, but it is of the nature of presence is explained. How it is not nothing but something. And what is that something? It's your own presence. It's your own spark, the spark of the spirit, spark of consciousness. Asti tavat swayam nama, asti tavat swayam nama, vivada vishayatvatah, vivada vishayatvatah, swasminnapi vivadaschet, स्वस्मिन्नपि विवादश्चेत् प्रतिवाद्यत्र को भवेत् प्रतिवाद्यत्र को भवेत्. The meaning of the word swayam is clearly known to everyone. That means that it means oneself. There is no doubt or discussion on this topic. If one wants to doubt and argue about one's own presence, then with whom will we argue? Swayam means I am, myself. Do you have any doubt whether you exist or you don't exist? Do you say that I am nothing? Yes, if you want to say that I am nothing, you are saying that word nothing with regards to you don't want to be a wife or a husband or a son or a daughter. No, I am none of the roles. You can say I am not the body, I am not the breath, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect. You can say I am not all these. But can you say I am not? With regards to something, you can say I am nothing. But with regards to yourself, can you say you are nothing? No, you cannot. So the self, when we say oneself, swayam, it is self-established. No one needs to prove your existence. I don't need your say to say I am alive. I don't need scriptures to tell me that I am a living entity. Isn't it? I don't need any proof from anyone. If the whole world goes against me and says, you are not, will I accept? I'll still say I am. Therefore, if however one still has a doubt about one's own being, if one is there or not, in that case with whom can one argue? His very presence is in doubt. See, those people who have this problem, whether I am or I am not, this problem, this issue that is coming up of presence or absence, it's only coming for those who are confused, it's coming only in their mind. It's not coming in their meditation. Or if they are sitting on the seat of meditation, still it is happening in their mind. I am or am I not? See? Therefore, this thought that after the rejection of the Panchakoshas, nothing is left is an impossibility. The very process of doubting proves one's existing, because there has to be a doubter. Who is doubting whether there is something or there is nothing. So that fellow is still there, and that fellow other than you? No. So that means the consciousness is there. Swasatvam tu na kasmai chet, swasatvam tu na kasmai chet, rochate vibramam vina, rochate vibramam vina, ata eva shrutir badham, ata eva shrutir badham, brute cha sattva dinaha, brute cha sattva dinaha. Unless deluded, none will ever accept one's own absence. Therefore, the scriptures declare the absence of those who emphasize the non-existence. Meaning, unless and until ignorance has not caught hold of us, until and unless delusion has not caught hold of us, unless and until confusion has not caught hold of us, until and unless doubt has not caught hold of us, till then we cannot deny our own presence. No person with a sane mind, who is sane, will ever say, I do not exist while speaking. Huh? So he is cancelling himself. He is existing and he is saying, I am not existing. So, till today, nobody has ever experienced their own absence or nothingness. And therefore, the Shrutis also condemn those who advocate Shunyatva, that there is nothing left after the five koshas are rejected. So, those people who we come across every now and then who say, after I go into my meditation, I am absolutely in deep silence and there is nothing there. Don't stop there, my dear friends. Don't come to the conclusion that there is nothing there. Instead of, why this comment is coming in the mind that there is nothing there? Because your attention is extrovert. All that you have experienced, you are illuminating first the presence of thoughts in the mind. Those thoughts in the mind were that of the body, that of the breath, vital breath, that of the emotions, that of the concepts. Now you are saying all these four are absent. So you are finding that your mind is empty. First there was something in the mind. Now there is nothing in the mind. But this comment comes. So first I say there is something, now I say nothing. But that nothing which is being illumined by your presence is not your nature. It is something that is being illumined. And we saw before that nothingness cannot be illumined because it is existing in its own absence. So why go into this imaginary, what is the word? Imaginary assumption that there is nothing, when there is no object called nothing ever possible, isn't it? Because you remember when we did the inquiry about space, there we saw space is non-existence, isn't it? Ignorance is non-existence, and non-existence is not an object of contemplation. So same thing we are coming here. After having denied the five koshas, what is left behind is not nothing. What is left behind is you. So instead of focusing on nothing, recognize now what is there is just me, the pure consciousness. How does the Shruti condemn the Shunyavadins? Asad Brahmeti Chedveda, Asad Brahmeti Chedveda, Swayameva Bhaved Asat, Swayameva Bhaved Asat, Atosya ma bhudvedyatvam, Atosya ma bhudvedyatvam, Swasatvam tvabhyupeyatam, Swasatvam tvabhyupeyatam. He says, if someone says that the Brahman is non-existent, he attains self-denial. Therefore, the self may not become an object of knowledge or experience. Yet, one must accept one's own existence. And for this regard, the examples were given before, about the tongue, the eye, the ear. You have not seen them, but you know they exist. Similarly, even though we may not and we can never experience our own self objectively, we can never. But at the same time, you cannot deny that you are ever. So why don't you just accept it? By your eyes, you can never see your eyes ever in your life. Then what do? You just accept that I have the eyes. Isn't it? So similarly, with the self, accept that the self is. This is the contemplation. And the contemplation is accept yourself. Don't reject the Atma Tattva. Don't reject the self. Accept yourself, that I am. Nobody says I am not. Let the argumentative people argue. We are here not to argue. Here we are here to come to a conclusion, come to a recognition, come to an abidance, come to be that we are. And are we nothing or are we something? No, we are not neither nothing nor we are something. We are it. We are the presence. We are the witness which keeps illuminating something or nothing. But it is independent of something and nothing. Just like sun. Because of the sun, the day and night is there, but sun is independent of day and night. Therefore, the Atma may not become an object of knowledge like the Panchakoshas, but one must recognize one's own presence. The ever-present existence that I am, this is called Brahman, not the Panchakoshas. So this inverted thinking that we have found ourselves to be trapped in, that I am the body, that I am the breathing apparatus, that I am a thinking person, that I am a man, woman, daughter, sister, brother, uncle, etc., etc., that I am a seeker, that I want to liberate, etc., etc., all these ideas that we have created in our own head, at the body level or first at the worldly level, then at the body level, then at the breath level. The Shad Urmis that we talk about, at the body level, it is the heat and cold that we continuously, or comfort and discomfort on basis of heat and cold. At the breath level, it is hunger and thirst. At the mind level, it is the joys and sorrows based on likes and dislikes. So this three pairs of opposites, we have to go beyond. As long as we are finding ourselves caught up in these, if we are getting affected by heat and cold, if we are affected by hunger and thirst, if we are subservient to joys and sorrows, when conducive things happen, we become joyful. When conducive things don't happen, we go into depression. These six opposites, they keep the mind active. Instead, recognize that in your presence, these six are coming and going. That is the nature of life. That is the nature of relativity. That there will never be always joy, there will be never always sorrow. There will be never always hunger, there will be never always thirst. Yet there are people who can control their hunger and control their thirst. We are not going into that. We are not here to show how much strength of mind we have, how much great sankalpa we have. No, we are not here for that. We are not here to strengthen our mind. We are here to dissolve our mind. And to dissolve that mind, all you have to do is stand apart from the mind. Because in the mind, joys and sorrows are there. In the mind, hunger and thirst is there. And in the mind, comfort and discomfort is there. Stand apart. Standing apart means not responding to any of these six stimuli, not reacting to these six stimuli. Reaction may be there, but let it not be an intense one, initial stages. Give it zero value. It's cold, who cares? Forget it. It's okay. You may be cold, you want? Then someone puts the heat up to 25 degrees. Oh my God, it's so hot. Sometimes out of default that type of statement comes. But don't allow that statement to disturb. If someone else is feeling that cold, remain comfortable. You persevere. The next question that follows, the acceptance that the Atma is and that it is not an object of knowledge, is what is the essential nature of this Atma, which one cannot objectify. So first is Atma or the self is, then second is what is its nature then? If it is, then what is its nature? So towards that, कीदृक् तर्हीति चेत् पृच्छेत् कीदृक् तर्हीति चेत् पृच्छेत् ईदृक्ता नास्ति तत्र हि ईदृक्ता नास्ति तत्र हि यदनीदृग्गता दृक्च यदनीदृग्गता दृक्च तत्स्वरूपं विनिश्चुनु Swarupam Vinishchinu. It says, now if one wants to know that like what the Atma is, this like whatness is not applicable to Atma. That which is unlike this or that is the nature of Atma. Come to discover it. Meaning, Atma is that which cannot be compared to anything. Why? There is nothing like that. Devaki, she had asked in her previous birth, Lord, I want a son, I want a child like you, whom I can mother. The Lord told her, there is no one there like me. So I will have to only take birth as you, in your womb, isn't it? So there is nothing like the divine, like the self. It cannot be compared with anyone else. Oh, is the self in me the same as the self in you? So now I start finding out what your self is. Acha, your self is the body. Then if you consider that to be the body, then you will consider yourself to be the body. If you consider that fellow consciousness to be of the nature of Satchidananda, then you will consider yourself also Satchidananda. But it is not a subject of comparison. It is not a subject of inference. There are no means possible by which you can ascertain that the self is. Why? Self is self-ascertained. It is self-existing. It is self-illumined. No other source can ever make us come to know it. And we are talking about ourselves. So, no other source means not even this book can ever make us come to know ourselves. These are only words, and therefore it is told, do not be obsessed with books, but while listening, while reading, while contemplating, go beyond the words to what those words are indicating, which cannot be talked about.
Nothing we can compare or cannot say nothing is like Atma, this is like Atma, no. But is there anything closer to Atma or something?
Nothing. It is by it is existing in its own self.
For example, our sheet, bliss sheet and intellectual sheet and other things, is it something, is it an order where it is nothing, even that is also not there? Or causal body, is it something?
Yes, they say that gross body closer to Atma is the causal body than gross body. But then we have already worked out in the previous verses, causal body is non-existent, is the ignorance itself, and ignorance is that which not exist. So what's the point of talking about it? Isn't it? So that means all this enquiry that is going on, where is it going on? In the mind. Mind is a product of? No. Mind is a product of? It has come out of what? Mind and intellect, it has come out of bliss sheath. Bliss sheath. What is bliss sheath? Equal to deep sleep state. Is equal to nothingness. Is equal to ignorance. So if the mind and intellect have come out of nothingness, out of ignorance, do they have any importance? We are just, as long as we remain here, we'll keep going round and round and round and round. We'll never reach the destination. So all study must not be for intellectual appreciation. It should be for, see, these examples are there, but we have to apply them. A pole vaulter, a high jumper in Olympics, he takes the pole, he runs, digs it into the ground, raises himself up, and when he has reached as high he can go, then he drops the pole. So we are using the words, we are running. But where have we dug it into? We have dug it into the reality. See? And we raise ourselves high. So taking the support of the pole, we raise ourselves high. And when we know that now if I cannot hold on to the words, I must drop them. Because if I keep holding on, I will again fall into duality, I will again fall into the phenomena, I will again fall into the anatma vastu, the not self. So have the courage, build yourself up to go beyond words. And that must happen not one day, it must happen while you are listening. Because every 2-3 verses, your attention is being taken to the Brahman, to the self, to the Atma Tattva, to the consciousness. They are not keeping you in the loop of the words. We did chapter 1, 2, 3, different angles are being taken again and again to direct, to enable you to drop the words. But we become intoxicated by the understanding. That is what happens. And as a result, we become obsessed. We start thinking there is a process. We start thinking there is a system. We start thinking there first this step, then that step, then that step. Then I'll get there.
So the bliss sheet expressing the deep sleep state. Likewise, is mind and intellect expressing the waking state, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Waking and dream.
And dream, okay. Dream, there's a difference. Thought express some. You told us something. In the dream and waking state, both thoughts appear, but one is not existing in the dream.
No. Go back to your notes. In the waking state, the thought of the object and the object of the thought are separate.
Okay, that's all.
And in the dream, the thought of the object and the object of the thought is a thought alone. That is the difference.
Right.
This must click.
Okay.
The reason we forget is because we are not applied. We are not independently thought about it. So I have said it. You take that information, take some examples, thought of the object in the waking state. Thought of the object, the thought of camera in my head, and the object called camera outside, they are separate.
Yeah, okay.
In the dream, eyes are closed, the thought called camera and the object called camera, both are thoughts in my mind. Make it your personal knowledge. Just listening is not enough. So there are two things, idrug and tadrug. Idrug is those, what do you call? Idrug is when we compare with something outside. No, from something inside. And tadrug is when we compare with something outside. So when you say, is Atma like the sofa, like the space, like the air, fire, water, earth? It is like, we take example, that the mind is like we take the example of the water, ocean and wave. Water, ocean and wave. We take that example. It's tadrik. It's some object outside, and we are trying to compare that with how the self is like the water. It is not like water because there are limitations to it. It can evaporate. So Atma cannot evaporate. And Idrug is that it is like the heavens, it is like that through feeling I can reach it. Where is this Idrug? These comparisons are within. Is it like the deep sleep state? Is it like the samadhi state? Is it like the heavens that they talk about in the scriptures? Is it like that this love that I'm feeling inside? Is that what Atma is? No. I'm very clear, absolutely crystal clear in my head. Is that what Atma is? No, it is not. If you're asking a question, it is not. If you're having a doubt, it is not. If you're comparing it with someone outside or inside, it is not. It is not like anything in the known or the unknown world. Why? Atma is the most unique thing. It is existing in its own presence. It's existing in its own presence. Mind is existing in its own absence. Difference. And mind's comparisons are always born out of absence. But the self is always present. So how can absence be compared to presence? It is not possible. Atma is the eternal presence, not the one which can be replaced by absence. So in this way, then if you ask the question, what is the nature of the Atma? It is not possible to describe that the Atma is like this or this or that. No? Nor is it possible to conjecture it is like that, tadruk. In this way, by negating this as well as that, you establish your own essential nature. So, this is what Yama Niyama does. Yama takes care of the outside, Niyama takes care of the inside. So, there is no comparison left anymore because you have purified it by self-discipline, by regular practice. See? And those who are not able to practice this, for them then asana, pranayam, pratyahara, all that is there. What is the meaning of idrug and tudrug? Akshanam vishayastvidrug. Akshanam vishayastvidrug. Parokshastadruguchyate. In class. विषयीनाक्ष विषयः विषयीनाक्ष विषयः स्वत्वान्नास्य परोक्षता स्वत्वान्नास्य परोक्षता. The objects of senses is meant by the word like this, which are directly perceived, and tadrug refers to things such as dharma, heaven, etc., known indirectly through scriptures. Okay, I said the other way, they are telling it this way. I said idrug is something within and tadrug is something outside. It's exactly the opposite. Idrug is like this. Like this means whatever is an object of perception for the senses, that is idrug. And whatever is the object of knowledge, which you have not seen through your senses, but you have imagined. Why? Because you have read it in the scriptures. For example, that there is heaven. Have you ever seen heaven? Nobody has seen heaven. People say Vaikuntha, Saket, Kailash. Have you ever seen Lord Shiva? Have you seen Narayana? Nobody has seen them. So all these become tadrug. So you compare. Is the self, is the spirit like Narayana? That may be the question. Is he available in the heaven? That may be the question. No comparison. This is when I say there are two, from different standpoints, answers are there. If I say, is he like Narayana? For some people, we will say yes. But here, if you take Shuddha Advait, then he is not like anyone else. He is what he is. The self is as it is. Otherwise, again problem. Is he like Narayana or is he like Shiva? Again problem. Again duality. So there are two things, that there is pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means known, direct experience of the senses, and paroksha is indirectly known. And self is not. It is not paroksha, but what is self? It is, the text is there, aparoksha anubhuti. It is the direct experience. It is not indirect experience, nor is it a sensory experience. So idruk is sensory experience, tadruk is indirect experience, and the self actually is a direct experience, which we are all having all the time. There has never been a time when we have not had the experience of our own self. Atma cannot be defined in terms like this or that. How can it be proved that this Atma is Brahma Swarupa? The teacher takes up this thought for development, first by stating that the Atma is Aparoksha, Swayam Prakasha, next by describing that the nature of Brahman, and followed by deducting the nature of Brahman in Atma, and thus establishing the identity of the Atma and Brahman. Very simply put, Atma is of the nature of Satchidanand, Brahman is also of the nature of Satchidanand. How can there be two Satchidanand? Atma has to be Brahman. If the quality of the water is wet, wave is to be wet, and the quality of water as the general principle is also wetness, is wave other than water? No, union established. अवेद्योऽप्यपरोक्षोतः अवेद्योऽप्यपरोक्षोक्तः स्वप्रकाशो भवत्ययं स्वप्रकाशो भवत्ययं सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं चेति सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं चेति अतीह ब्रह्मलक्षणम् अतीह ब्रह्मलक्षणम् no, अस्तिह ब्रह्मलक्षणम् ब्रह्मलक्षणम्. So this Atma, although unknowable but being self-illumined, is immediate. The essential nature of Brahman, namely existence, knowledge and bliss, are seen here in case of Atma. So let's go. This Atma, although unknowable. Unknowable for whom? To the mind, correct. This Atma is unknowable to the mind, unknowable to the intellect. It cannot be a concept. We talk about it as a concept, but it is not a concept. It is self-ascertained. It does not require concepts to be proved that it is there. But being self-illumined, it is illuminating itself all the time. It does not require words to illuminate it. Sun does not require a lamp to illuminate it. It's self-illumined. Is immediate. It is not one day you will come to know. It is not by doing this or by doing that it will become your nature. It has always been your nature. It is the closer than the closest aspect of yourself. So you can remove the body identification. Every night it happens in sleep, but out of ignorance. Do it consciously on the seat of meditation. Go beyond the identification with the breath. Go beyond the identification with the emotions. Go beyond the identification of this concept or that concept. Idruk or tadruk. Now there is nothing else to remove. There is nothing else to remove. That what is left behind is you. Can you remove yourself? No. You cannot remove yourself. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Cha Itya Brahma Lakshanam. Now, regarding the nature of the Brahman, it is Satyam Jnanam Anantam, existence, knowledge and bliss. And the nature of Brahman also can be deduced in the Atma, because Atma is also of the nature of Satyam Jnanam Anantam. It is self-existing, it is self-knowing, and it is always blissful. The Atma. Come to know yourself. You will find that the more disidentified you are with the body, breath, mind, intellect, the more expression of consciousness will be more, and expression of bliss also will be more. For no reason, not because of something. No, it will be naturally start expressing. And what is the nature of Brahman? Also the same, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. When this commonality is recognized, then the self, the Atma, is not other than the Brahman. For nature, for the purpose of talking, for the purpose of discussing, we are using these words. But once you come to the self, there is no doubt that that self at that very moment starts expressing as the Brahman. The nature of Brahman can also be deduced in the Atma. Therefore, Atma, which is Paroksha, Aparoksha and Swaprakasha, is nothing but the Parabrahma Paramatma. In this way, Brahmatmaikya Bodha takes place through the Panchakosha Vivek. In this way, the recognition that this conscious self is the infinite consciousness. This Atma is the Paramatma. This spirit, which is recognized in the core of the body, breath, mind, intellect, is the same spirit which is one without a second, expressing through all the body, breath, mind, intellect. This recognition comes. See? And this has to happen. You cannot make it happen. All you can do is keep giving zero value to everything that is coming between you and yourself. What is coming in between you and yourself? The world is coming. Practice yama. What is coming in between you and yourself? your character, your individuality. So practice niyama. Then what is coming in between you and yourself? The senses are coming. Practice sense control. Then what is coming in between you and yourself? The mind is coming between you and yourself. Slowly reduce the impact of the mind. Don't remove the mind, remove the impact. The only way to do it is not give it value, not give it attention. That's all. Sometimes you may think that I will not give value, but easier way is make the mind to contemplate on the self. Once a certain level of momentum has been generated, where now the attention naturally is not getting attracted by the world, is not getting attracted by the body, is not getting attracted by the breath, is not getting attracted by imaginations in the mind. Now it has become a self-propelled journey. Now you don't need to do anything. You need to just bring yourself into that zone again and again, and whatever needs to happen, it will keep happening. All you can do is to come to this point with understanding. See? Then first witnessing will happen, and when witnessing happens, at that very moment, first it is that I am not disturbed by the world. Then this undisturbed presence itself is of the nature of Atma. And this Atma itself is of the nature of Paramatma. That is Brahmatmaikya Bodha. All these are only words, words, words. Like Jnaneshwar Maharaj says in the morning class on Sundays. Words cannot illuminate the presence. Effect cannot illuminate the cause. Finite cannot illuminate the infinite. Conditioned cannot illuminate the unconditioned. Limited cannot illuminate the unlimited. Anything that is a product of time, space and objectivity cannot illuminate that which is transcendental to all these three. And that is the Atma. That is your essential nature. Regain yourself. Then no complaining in your life. Poor me, why me? We all go through that, isn't it? No place for complaints then, because the whole world is nothing but my expression. Then what will I run away from, and where will I go? No place. How the Atma is Brahma Swarupa, and how each and every aspect of Brahman can be deduced in the Atma is further explained. Satyatvam badharahityam, Satyatvam badharahityam, Jagad badhaika sakshinaha, Jagad badhaika sakshinaha, Badha king sakshiko bruhi, Badha king sakshiko bruhi, Na tvasakshika ishyate, Na tvasakshika ishyate. The existence means that which is immune to negation, that which is the witness of the negation of the world. Who will know the negation of this witness? And the absence without the knower of the absence is not proved. So simply put, the existence means that which is immune to negation. What is pure existence? That which can never become non-existence. This camera exists, but one day this camera will cease to exist. Isn't it? One day this body is existing right now, but one day this body will cease to exist. One day the baby was existing, it ceased to exist, and the teenage existed. Then teenage ceased to exist, youth existed. Then youth became non-existent, and middle age existed. One day middle age will become non-existent, old age will become existent. Why you are smiling? You are coming there? And one day old age will cease to exist and the body will become non-existent. But throughout all this change, have you ever experienced your non-existence? Never. Recognize this. So the fear is on account of identification with the body. Identification with the concepts and roles and various other things. Whenever you identify with something, you become conditioned by it and you start living like that. Essentially you are independent. Essentially you are You have never been, Atma can never get attached to anything. It is not possible. Just like eyes can never get attached to anything. Continuously, whatever they are seeing knows the same, it cannot stay with the same object continuously. Same way the breath cannot stay with the in-breath all the time or out-breath. It has to give way to in-breath and out-breath. The flux will continue. Similarly, the mind also cannot stay with one thought continuously. It will keep changing. And if you force it to come, or you prepare it to come to one thought, the mind will die. Try and experiment it yourself. Don't believe me. Don't believe the scriptures. Try. Bring it. Do the experiment and find out how true is this statement. See? Breath is not attached to the body. Mind is not attached to anything. It is not possible. If it was attached to the body, then the mind would not have gone through the change of thinking from a child thinking to teenage thinking, from teenage thinking to youth thinking, from youth thinking to married thinking, from married thinking to old age thinking. It wouldn't have gone through all those changes if mind was attached. But some places it seems that it is attached. But this imagination that there is something called attachment is just a mere imagination. There is no attachment ever possible in life. Nothing can stick to another. Yet it seems that way, and that is the power of Maya. That is the power of Maya. But here we are not sitting to enquire Maya. Body, breath, mind, intellect, etc. is a product of Maya. But we are using those tools not to prove Maya is. We are using those tools to go beyond Maya, to that Sat Vastu, to that eternal principle, to that eternal existence, which can never become non-existent. All other things can become existent or non-existent.
Body attachment to whom then? Is it not to the
It is also not possible.
Is it not to the mind?
Aye?
Is it not to the mind?
What?
Body attachment.
It seems to be there. It seems to be. I'm taking a higher standpoint. If you look at it from higher standpoint, nothing is attached to anything. But right now it feels that my mind is attached to the body, isn't it? But actually it is not possible. Technically, scientifically, nothing can be attached to anything. And yet that seeming feeling is there, that I am attached to this body, that I am attached to the breath, I am attached to my emotions, I am attached to my ideas. Isn't it? That is how we are living right now. But as you purify yourself, you will find nothing is attached to anything. You inquire into the nature, is anything attached to anything? If you inquire, I just took you through birth, childhood, youth, old age, and what is attached? Nothing is attached. Everything is changing all the time. Even right now, all the cells are changing. Are you crying that so many millions of cells have died just now in last few seconds? So many thoughts are going through your mind as you are listening. So the thoughts are appearing, they were born and they are dying away. Are you becoming miserable? No. So many breaths are coming and going out. Are you becoming miserable? No. Then why this feeling that I will be dead, or why this fear? Because we haven't understood the whole thing. This imaginary attachment is what we are trying to sort out. By recognizing that I am that changeless principle. The more we focus on the changing, the more we'll be tossed by the world. The more we'll be tossed by the mind. The more we think about the changeless principle, which is the Atma, no more tossing. Then we can toss the world wherever we want it to. So only two choices, either be the slave of the world or be the master of the world. If you keep thinking about the world, you will be a slave of the world. If you keep thinking about the self, the Atma Tattva, and recognize that I am that, you will be the master of the world. For that, to be the Atma Tattva, you have to give up attachment, which is not there in the first place. You have to give it up. You have to grow out of it. You have to recognize that there is nothing called attachment. It's a concept which we have created ourselves in our own mind. It is a concept which has been presented to us because we are used to using the word attachment, identification, conditioning. So scriptures use that word and show you how it is not possible. You are living in your own imagined web of thoughts and you have started calling it attachment. You have started calling it limitation. You have started calling it avidya kama karma. You have started calling it time, space and objectivity. All these are an expression of ignorance. And ignorance is that which does not exist. So where's the question of self-created web? Be free. That which is the witness of the negation of the world, who will know the negation of this witness? Yes, I can negate the body, I can negate the breath, I can negate the mind, I can negate the intellect, I can negate the bliss, I can be the witnessing consciousness, but I have to negate the witnessing consciousness. You cannot negate the witnessing. You have to, otherwise it will continue. There is no end to it then. You have to stop somewhere, and that point of stop is witnessing consciousness. You cannot remove the witnessing consciousness. Come to this point again and again and again, create the right circumstances so that your mind, you come to be the witness, and this practice slowly will dissolve all the impurity of the mind, and you will become steady as the witnessing consciousness. Every denial of the world can be established only if there is a witness to the negation. Therefore, the two qualities of existence are that which cannot be denied and that which is the witness of every denial. See, so true. So, who is the witness? Who can never be denied. And what is the other one? The other is who is the witness of every denial. In your presence, first is your undeniable presence. Second is you were the witness of the body disidentification. You were observer of the fast breath becoming slow breath becoming no breath. Even for a second, if I stop now, there is no breath. I am the witness of it. In my presence it is happening, isn't it? See? In my presence, I am the witness of no thoughts in the mind. In dream, that happens. In deep sleep it happens. In samadhi it happens. So, I have known that things have been dropped and I was in my presence. I have known that. You have recognized it or not, that is a different matter. That's why we are studying this, so that you recognize that every denial, the childhood was dropped in the presence of the witness. And in the presence of the witness, the teenage came. In the presence of the witness, teenage was dropped. In the presence of the witness, youth came. That's why you can speak about it, isn't it? Because there must have been an unattached observer. In the presence of this witness, every day the waker, dreamer, deep sleeper come and go. That's why you can talk about it, isn't it? If this fellow was not there, how will you talk about it? Who was noticing whom then? Waker cannot talk about dreamer, dreamer cannot talk about deep sleeper, and deep sleeper cannot talk about waker. Because nobody has an entry into the other world. Then who is knowing that these three are coming and going? That is the real you. That is the always existing consciousness, which is the witnessing consciousness. And that is always present. Even right now it is present. Point is, are you becoming the listener or are you the presence in whose presence the listening is taking place? That's the difference. If you become the listener, you will try hard to listen and catch every word. If you are the presence in whose presence the listening is taking place, knowledge is taking place, understanding is taking place, breath is taking place, body is sitting in its place, then you have got it right now. Then you don't need to remember anything. Then you are ever present. Who can deny this existence, which is the witness of the denial or rejection of the world of plurality? This Sakshi, which is ever present, is the nature of the Brahman. So this Sakshi, this witnessing consciousness, itself is of the nature of Brahman. This witnessing consciousness is Satchidanand, it is eternal, it has never changed, it has always been witnessing, and Brahman is also always existing. How can be two continuous existences? That means both are one and the same. This can be deduced in the Atma also. Therefore, the Satyam of the Brahman is fully established in the Satyam of the Atma Tattva. So, this truth, this pure existence, this continuous existence of the witnessing consciousness, which is / Atma Tattva, is the same continuous existence of the Brahman. They are not two, it's one and the same. See? The electricity that is passing through this bulb and the electricity which is passing through these other bulbs is one and the same. Bulbs may be different. It seems the existence which is in this one through this equipment is separate to the existence in each one of us or any other object. It seems that way at the gross level. But actually speaking, existence is one without a second. It cannot be many. And it is the ever-present witnessing consciousness. Because without the Sakshi, the negation cannot be established. Without the presence of the witnessing consciousness, see, you cannot see your eyes, but you know eyes are. You cannot see your mind, but you know the mind is. Why? Because the words are coming out, thoughts are being formed. Have you ever seen your thoughts? No. Have you ever seen your eyes by your own eyes? No. But how do you come to that conclusion? First is that the eyes are able to see everything, isn't it? And the second is, I know they are there. Whether there is something or nothing, eyes still are. Whether there is thoughts or no thoughts, mind still is. Whether there is something to illuminate or not illuminate, the witnessing consciousness is. So what does that witnessing consciousness illuminate? The waking and the dream and the deep sleep. That is how you know I gave up dream and I woke up. I gave up waking and I went to sleep. I gave up sleep and again I woke up. How can you give up sleep if you become the sleeper? That you must be someone else to in whose presence this giving up was recognized. This movement from dream to the waking to the deep sleep, this continuous movement that is taking place, someone is recognizing it, someone is watching it, someone is observing it, someone is noticing it without getting attached to the process. That's the real you. To live anything less than that is a living suicide. Is a living suicide. See? The point is illustrated by an example. अपनीतेषु मूर्तेषु यमूर्तं शिष्यते वियत् शक्येषु बाधितेष्वन्ते शिष्यते यत्तदेव तत्. When the objects with forms are removed from a place, the formless space is left behind. Similarly, all that can be negated is negated. At the end of it, whatever is left unnegated, that indeed is Atma. Contemplate in this manner. Because in the outside world, when an object is removed, then space cannot be removed. Space cannot be removed. Have you seen space? Is it an object which can be removed? But it is, isn't it? You say, I cannot remove anything more. Similarly in yourself, whatever can be negated, negate, then there is nothing else left to negate. Then that is the Atma Tattva. Come to this conclusion. In the same way, when the Panchakosha Vivek is carried out, the 5 koshas can be rejected, but the Atma, which is the substratum supporting all the koshas, can never be denied. Therefore, Atma is Satya Swarupam like the Brahman. With regards to this, I just gave you so many examples. And then continuing, Sarvabadhena kinchit chet, Sarvabadhena kinchit chet, Yanna kinchit tadevatat, Bhasha evatra bhidyante, Nirbadham tavadastihi. If one objects that when everything, the 5 sheaths, is negated, nothing is left, then that really nothing is Brahman. In this expression, only language differs. The non-describable Atman is ever present indeed. Instead of saying that there is really nothing, understand that real nothing is the Atman alone. Don't look at it. You can look at a glass, you can say it is half empty, the negative way, or you can say it is half full, the positive way. So you say that it is the Atma, not nothing. Because if you say it is nothing, then you have to face the repercussions of that conclusion. Then the questions will come, how can nothing be me? This will be the problem. And in this way, this ever-present, never-deniable existence, which is the nature of Brahman, is also the nature of Atman. To support this point, again the Shruti is cited. अत एव श्रुतिर्बाध्यम् अत एव श्रुतिर्बाध्यम् बाधित्वा शेषयत्यदः बाधित्वा शेषयत्यदः स एष नेति नेत्यात्मेति स एष नेति नेत्यात्मेति अतद्व्यावृत्तिरूपतः atadvyavrittirupatah. Therefore, this is not Atma. In this way, the Upanishad, by the method of negating the non-self and having negated all that which can be negated, indicates the one which is left behind unnegated as Atma. So first it is Vyatirek. Not this, not this, not this, not this. Now there is nothing to remove anymore. Then what is left? What is left behind when there is nothing more to be removed? That is the conclusion of Vyatirek sadhana. Neti neti. And what is left behind? The Atma Tattva. What is left behind is the pure existence. What is left behind is the witnessing consciousness. And then the more you stay there, the more you not stay, the more you be that, slowly, slowly, the Anvaya will begin. That you cannot create, but it will begin. What is the Anvaya? That not only, so I am that which is not these. But what is Anvaya? That I am everything that there is. So first recognize yourself to be independent of the conditionings which are existing in their own absence. This attachment to these conditionings is also existing in its own absence. But once you have come to know yourself and you remain steady in that position, again and again and again and again, just like if you go again and again and again to the gym, your muscles will grow, your stamina will grow. Similarly, the more you stay in the correct identity, and what is the correct identity? I am the witnessing conscious. I am undisturbed by anything. The more you take that position, the strength will grow. What is that strength? The strength of all pervasiveness. The strength of recognizing that this witnessing consciousness is the only material in the that there is. It is the support of everything. It is just like in the space, everything is, yet space is independent of everything. Just like water is in every ocean and every wave, yet water is independent of everything. Similar will be your recognition, but you have to stay there. Come to the correct conclusion and stay there. Come to the correct conclusion, stay there. Negate everything, come to the correct conclusion. Without thinking. Remain there. Be that. Again and again. On a daily basis. The more you touch yourself as yourself, the more you be yourself, automatically the rays of effulgence, they will spread out and engulf everything. Because you are the only thing. All diversity is only an imagination. So if we talk about university and diversity, this is what it is. Then you will still be living in this world without compromising the unity, unifying that you are the unifier. Without compromising who you are. And this will become your natural state. You don't have to work hard on it. All you need to do is shift your attention from the conditionings to the unconditioned. That's all. Again and again, again and again. Stay in the body, sit in meditation, feel the effulgence, feel the throb, not only just in your breath, but feel the throb in every cell in your body. How that throb is continuously making every cell in your body, uh, uh, it expands, it contracts, it expands and contracts. Feel the moment your attention goes to not one limb, not one nose, but the entire body, you will feel suddenly you go into a different zone. When you feel the energy throbbing through every aspect of your body, at that moment your attention is on energy, not on the body. That moment your attention is on the potential. Try different ways, experiment, experiment, experiment. And in this way, where Ata eva Shrutir Badhyam. And this, thus the Shruti Mata does not create Atma, but by again and again denying and rejecting all that we are holding on to as not the truth, helps in revealing the Atma Tattva to the seeker as his own essential nature. She is only giving you a direction. Look in this way, man. No forcing. She didn't ask you to come. You came to the scriptures. You want to read the scriptures. You want to come and attend the satsang. She's not even forcing you while you are in the satsang or reading a book. Ki you think this. No, don't believe. Experiment and find out if what is being written is true or false, and come to your own conclusion. And in this way, the Panchakosha Vivek is continuing, and next week probably we'll conclude it, this third chapter. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Just sit quietly for 2 minutes.